Hey y'all, this is Lorene with enlightens, and I have Jay here with me as my guest, and we are discussing his recovery. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great.
Good. Well, thank you for agreeing to be here with me today, and sorry about that. We are trying to set this up and make it amazing. So, what were you about to tell me earlier, Jay?
When I first started this journey, which my sobriety date is October 18th, 1990, the first groups that I went to, I went to hundreds of meetings where I was the only black person in the room, which was cool with me because the fellowship that I was in, it welcomed me with open arms, and because I had been there before, and they welcomed me even after I had gone back out and came back in. They welcomed me back in, and it was quite some time before any other black members came to the fellowship that I was in. And in fact, I had gone through my third treatment facility, and I met my sponsor at a meeting at the treatment facility that I was in, and he introduced me to a lot of members there. But he didn't, a lot of times he wasn't at the meetings because I would go at 12 and he would go at 8. And I was the only person there,
So,
right.
Was this in Pine Bluff, or was this in Little Rock? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
This was in Pine Bluff.
Yeah. Today, we were discussing earlier. I kind of had a hard time finding a meeting here.
Right.
And I have to show you my experience when I first came into the program.
Right.
There were not a lot of people of color when I came in either. And sometimes that concerns me, but I can't dwell on that.
Right.
My main purpose right now is to stay sober.
Right.
However, I do wonder why that is. Sometimes I think, and since we're both, by the way, Jay is raised in the same hometown that I'm in, and I'm sure that we have a lot of the same morals, and we were pretty much raised the same way.
Right, basically.
So I was raised with what goes on in the house stays in the house, and that means that you don't go outside the house and talk about anything that's personal.
Right.
And is that your same experience?
Yes, that's tell you. You were speaking about not seeing a lot of people of color, and what's the real issue with that? I grew up and I had a grand uncle, and I never knew his name until he passed away, because I always called him Uncle Boots. And I didn't know until I was grown, and he needed the program of recovery. And the thing about, he didn't have access like I have access.
Yes.
And like the people who came before, a little bit before me had access, and the people who come behind me has access to the program.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he died, and I found out why they called him that, because he was an alcoholic.
Wow.
He was functioning, of course.
I can remember as a kid when we would go places and we have family get together, and if a member of the family was over in the corner drunk, oh, that's just Uncle so-and-so. They would never explain to us, okay, what's wrong with him? It was just, he just drunk, leave him alone, let him sleep it off. And we never talked about it. It was just, it was just something that happened. It was something. And now that I'm in recovery, I know that there's some things that we can't sweep under the rug or whatever you want to call it. Those skeletons in the closet, they need to be brought out, and we need to ask, why is this person acting like that? And not be afraid to say, you know what, there's something uncle ain't right. There's something wrong with them. He ought not to be acting like that. And
I agree.
because we are I can't speak for all blacks, and that's no way I'm trying to do that. All we're doing here is sharing our experience, what we have experienced, and what we think that is happening. I'm gonna pause it just for a minute.
Okay.
So I remember when I came into the rooms, and I have to tell you a funny story.
Okay.
So I was the only black woman in the rooms when I came, and I came in there with attitude all over me, because I'm like, fear-based. I was so afraid that they weren't gonna accept me, wasn't gonna like me. So anytime I get in fear, I get this cocky attitude, because I don't want you to know how afraid I really am. So I walk in and I'm like this, and I'm rolling my eyes. You know how we can do it.
Yes,
you know us. So you know how we women can act. So I come in there, and they never would say anything to me. And I told my sponsor, I said, I'm gonna stop going. I said, those women don't like me. I'm not going back. So she said, okay, tell me what time you go. The meeting starts at 10:15, right? So I said, I go at 10:30. And she said, well, why are you going at 10:30? And I said, I go at 10:30 because I don't want to hear all that stuff they read. I don't need to hear that stuff. It's boring, and I know exactly what they're going to say, and I don't need that. And she says, what time do you leave? And I said, I leave 15 minutes early because I don't want to be holding hands with them either. So she says, you're going to go back. Next Sunday, I want you to go back. So I'm like, whatever. So I go back. And when they said, anybody got anything they want to say? And I said, I do. And I started telling them, I know you guys don't like me. And I said, I know you see me because I'm the blackest thing in here. This is amongst all white women. And one of them, she just busts out. She's got this huge laugh. Busts out and start laughing. And I'm looking at her like, what's wrong with this fool? And before I can get out that door, these women surrounded me. And they hugged me. What they were doing, let me back that up. What my higher power was doing for me is what I can do for myself. He knew that there was a place I needed to be at. And I have to say, those women are some of my best friends now, because they weren't allowing me to see color. And because this disease doesn't have any color, doesn't care how rich you are. It doesn't care any of those things, about any of those things. This disease is out to kill me. And even today, this disease will kill me. So it's so funny that you share similar the same experience where you were the only black man. When you went in, it's like, how ironic is that?
Oh yes, it is. Well, that's just the nature, because and I always I transitioned. I went to this other fellowship, and believe it or not, this other fellowship overall is 51% white, 49% black. But in this area, it's more like 80% black, 20% white, and it's just here in Pine Bluff. I don't know if you have that, but here it doesn't reflect the overall percentage of male, female, white, black.
Okay.
And but I transitioned not so much away because I've served in various positions in this other fellowship, you know, and my sponsors have always come from this other fellowship. I don't.
Okay, well, you're fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
And in fact, my last sponsor, the reason I chose him is because I was going through a divorce and I needed a sponsor. I needed to go back down through the steps, you know, in all honesty, and because I had gotten away from the program for a minute, and I had lost my way in life.
Yeah.
And, he was sharing in a meeting that he had gone through 4 divorces.
Wow.
And he was just as happy as could be. And I was
wanted
going,
what he had.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was going through this one, man, and I was miserable. So of course I wanted what he had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, excuse me. That was my reasoning for asking him to sponsor me, and he walked me, and that was 15 years ago, and I went for maybe 5-6 years without having a sponsor, but I wasn't attending fellowship meetings either,
Yeah.
and it makes a big difference, and at least it made a big difference in my life because I didn't get sober until I finally realized that I couldn't do this alone.
Yeah. How long have you been sober, Jay?
31 years.
Wow. Wow.
Only,
That's
and
by the grace of God.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
every time I share about something like that, I always tell the people and anybody who's listening, I only put 10% effort into my recovery. I allow God to do the other 90%.
I like that.
I allow him to work in my life 90% of the time. But that other 10% will get me drunk again, believe it or not.
Yeah. I tell them I work out. I love working out. And I always tell them my disease is over there doing push-ups
Exactly.
and getting stronger because it knows. It
Yeah.
tells me I've got another drink in me.
Right.
And when it comes back, it's going to be full-blown. And that's a fear that I have. And I know people say that with a lot of more time. Is that a good fear for me to have, or do you think that's bad?
I tell you what, my sponsor passed about 3 years ago. But anyway, he always told me that I'm a long way from my last drink, but I'm always closer to my next one. And that's the way I remembered it. You know, and the disease that we suffer from, it has no cure.
Yeah.
We both know that. And all it can be is a rescue. And each day I take out some insurance through prayer and meditation, you know, helping others, going to meetings, different things like that.
Yeah.
You know, I just take out some insurance. So that I
Can't
won't-
rest on our Lord.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, that will take me right back to where I was in I told you last night, it was my class reunion.
Okay.
And someone was mentioning, I can't believe they don't have any drinks here. What's wrong with them? And one of my classmates, she says, Lorene, you want something to drink tonight? And I told her, I said, girl, when I drink, I break out in handcuffs. So I can't,
Right.
that ain't gonna work for me. And she says, oh, you're gonna be with me. And guess what I told her? No, I ain't. I'm like,
That's right.
I'm gonna be in jail.
Right,
And
right.
you gonna be rolling by yourself, cause
Right.
I'm gonna be acting a fool if I drink, and I know me.
I agree.
So,
I know
and
what
they
you're
just
saying.
looked at me, but I was really serious.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult when you're in a new environment. It's better for me now, but when I was newly sober, when I would go to a place that was out of my comfort zone, or away from home, that thought would always seep in.
Right.
Nobody would know if I
Right,
drink.
yeah.
Who's gonna know?
Right.
We were discussing earlier about attending meetings. When I go out of town, I always look for a place where I can go. I usually Google it before I go to that hometown
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that I am feeding this disease that I have, to make sure I'm maintaining my, sobriety, because it's so important. So important.
I know before you started the podcast, we were talking about the neighborhood and did I get sober here or did I have to leave? I read somewhere, that a change in environment was good for me. I only moved from one side of town to the other. But for my first 2 years, and we spoke about fear too, I used to get haircuts on the west side of Pine Bluff, and I stayed on the east side. And I was afraid to come to the west side because I just knew some things were going to jump on me, And I ain't talking about people, I'm talking about
I know
the
what
bottle,
you're talking about.
the drugs, or whatever. And it's just going to automatically jump on me, my first couple of years, I had a lot of fear, and God hadn't removed that yet because I hadn't asked properly or with sufficient force. Ask God to remove that fear, but over time, I think somewhere I read, we tend to outgrow fear. And I outgrew that fear of coming on the west side or going anywhere, because somewhere else I read it says that folks like us can go
anywhere as long as it's a purpose.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yes, I do too.
I love that. And it keeps me knowing that long as I keep close to my program and close to my higher power, then nothing can defeat me when it comes to that. And I went to St. Peter's Rock, the church that I grew up in, that's why I was like, I love this. We got so much in common.
Right.
And I went and I was video in the church, and I was telling them, I came to this church, but I didn't learn about. It was a foundation for me to learn about my higher power, but I had to come into the 12-step program room in order for me to really understand what it was that they were talking about. Because you went to the same church that I went to, and it taught us about hellfire and burning in hell, and I used to be so afraid that this big old God, he's gonna just punish me. Even if I think something bad, I'm gonna be punished. And then I come into these rooms and you guys tell me I can have whatever higher power, higher power of my understanding. So I had to make him attainable for me, because I didn't know that I could do that. So I had to make him a loving and caring God. But I'm so grateful for that building, St. Peter's Rock. That building, it taught me how to pray, and it taught me, everything that I needed to learn at that time. And they tell us when we come into the 12-step program, we got to unlearn everything we know. And it's like, I remember when I worked the step about, God, and it was like, I told my sponsor, we could skip that step because I got this God thing. Because I'm Baptist, and I was raised Baptist, and don't talk about my God. Because if you said something bad about him, he's going to strike you down anyway, right?
Right.
So what was your experience with the God thing?
Not much difference, and I've shared in hundreds of meetings whenever we get to talking about the first 3 steps and my understanding of God. Today I knew I had a misunderstanding, because I honestly came into the program and I thought that God had called me to do what I did because of something I had done in my childhood. God was cursing me with alcoholism and drug addiction.
Yes.
And
We're taught that.
right,
You know,
exactly.
we were
The
taught
fire
that.
and brimstone,
Yes.
the punishing God.
Yes.
Thank God, and thank God for, I don't know if I can say
The
this,
12-step program.
12-step program, and certainly the third step,
Yes.
because
yes.
I had to get a better understanding about
Yes.
God, you know.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be my mother's, grandmother's, grandfather's, or any
God,
of
it had to be
them.
mine.
My own conception of who God is. And
Yeah.
like you just said, today I worship a God that's loving, caring, understanding, forgiving,
Yeah.
generous, you know, but never punishing.
Yeah. My God don't think so bad of me that I could do something so bad that I would burn in hell for the rest of my life.
Right, right.
That's a horrible way to think.
It is, man.
You know, and it's scary. So it's like, why would he do that? He made me, he loves me.
And yeah, we both had a foundation of the church, and I always share too, man, about me being not atheist, but somewhat agnostic. And I'm not saying that because I was actually agnostic. I'm saying it because my actions dictated that I had no fear of God. You know, God wasn't controlling my life. I was controlling my life. Therefore, by the time I was 15, 16, I didn't need God anymore. You know, and I certainly didn't need no punishing God.
Exactly.
And I guess around the age of 19, 20, I crossed the line, that imaginary line between casual and hard drinker to alcohol.
So full blown.
Full-blown.
That invisible line that once you cross over, you can't ever go back, y'all.
Right.
I mean, mine started, my crossover, and this is what I say, is when I started the blackouts. Because I have no control over when I'm going to have a blackout.
Right.
Sometimes I wouldn't have them, and sometimes I would drink. I couldn't, it wasn't up to me when I would have them.
Right.
So that's when I said I crossed over that invisible line and of no return.
Right.
And that's a crazy place, y'all. Crazy. So how did you feel when did you have to go to treatment?
I actually went to 3 treatment facilities.
Okay.
And my experience, and the first one I went to because my mother suggested that I needed some help.
Yeah.
And then the second time I went, which was approximately 3 months after my first one, my job suggested that I go.
I highly suggest
And I guess maybe 8 months after my second treatment facility, I stayed sober 89 days.
Wow.
Yep, 89 days. And
that's a lot for us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I would. That's why I always share with folks, man, that during the course of those 89 days, I probably went to, on average, 2 meetings a day. You know, but I actually had a sponsor, but I never communicated with him.
Didn't use them.
Never used him.
It was just in name.
Right, in name. So if we ever got in a topic in a discussion meeting and they were talking about sponsorship, I got one of them. True story. But probably after that 89 days, maybe 3 months after that, I had relapsed, and then it went from I was using once a week, then once every 3 days, then every other day, and then it was every day all over again. And but I went to my third treatment facility. I didn't call my job. and I didn't call my mother. And I
Because
just went.
you went,
Right.
because you wanted to
I
go.
wanted to go.
Yes.
I
So that
had
was
to.
totally different from
Yeah,
someone forcing you to do it.
Absolutely. It made all the difference in the world. And I don't know, I finally heard some things, and I started applying them into my life. I finally heard them say get a sponsor, and this time calling, I heard
Don't
them,
wait.
don't wait, yeah. And
Yeah.
I started doing, they said go to as many meetings as you can. They didn't stipulate 90 meetings in 90 days or 100 and
Yeah.
120,
Yeah.
as many as you can, and I
Yeah.
did. And they told me to go until I wanted to go. And immediately I wanted to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I wanted to save my life.
Yeah.
I was tired of living that way.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth, man. It's been a wonderful journey. There's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But I don't get too low when it's down, and I don't get too happy when it's up. I found that even keel, and I got that from the fellowship. I really did.
Awesome.
People sharing with me their experience with life situations and hearing it all the time.
So, I know, this is my town too, and why do you think that we don't see a lot of us in here? I've already asked that, but I'm basing it on this. When you and I were growing up, it was such a tight community, and everybody, we would help each other.
Right.
But I guess my concern is that not seeing enough of us in seeking help or getting this, even though it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to go to a treatment center to get this. There's free places, a lot of free places.
A lot. I always hear that. We never knew you guys were here.
You heard that from
People who
when
eventually make it in.
they said they didn't know about
Right.
that there was such a program.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
That makes a lot of sense because
And,
for me, I remember when I Googled it
right.
and it came up, but I didn't pay that much mind to it. The only way that I made it in to the rooms was being manipulating
Okay.
because I was on my third DWI.
Right.
And I want the judge to say, "Oh, look at her! She's going to this program, and
Yes.
let us give her some mercy."
Right.
So that's why I came in
Okay.
to, a hidden agenda.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
So I don't know how we can get the message out because it's really
Well,
it's not that easy.
right. It's not that easy here because we don't have a public information person in our fellowship.
Okay.
Per se.
Okay.
At one time we did. At one time we had a call center where
Okay.
where people could, and at one time we actually published it in the daily newspaper.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
And nothing. Did you guys get any results from that?
Well, early on, I just wanted to
Yeah.
get a distinction. I used to go to meetings in one fellowship, and it would be 50, 60 people in a meeting.
So it was more.
Yeah, more.
Wow.
Back in 1990, 92. And the thing about it, because it was in the forefront of everybody's mind
Yes.
at that time, because it was somewhat an epidemic.
that's where they were war against drugs
Right,
thing?
right.
When it
That
came
type of
full
thing.
blown?
Right.
Yes.
That type of thing.
Okay, I could see that.
But over the course of time, it's just the interest has waned. But the thing that I know, and I'm quite sure you know, people are still dying from the same disease that was going on in 1990 in 2022.
Yes. Yeah, because, we talked about it earlier. This is a disease that tells me I don't have it.
Right.
And it took at least 6 months before my mind started clearing up. At least 6 months. It still ain't all there, but
I feel you.
it's a little better, right?
Yeah.
But it took some.
Right.
I got to get clearer,
Yeah.
and I think that's why they have the steps put in the place that there are.
Exactly.
Because they're there for a reason.
For
the
a
old
reason.
timers continue to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
they're there for a
Definitely.
reason. So don't be skipping and don't be thinking
Right.
you can have a buffet and select the one you want to work and don't work
Right.
the other ones.
Right.
You got to work them all. And you got to have them in order.
In order.
But
Yeah.
I think with both of us, maybe there, hopefully other people can see this with me and Jay, and that there is help out there. And man, I can get sober. Anybody can get sober. That's all I can think about now. It's like it's not always easy, but for me, it's easier to stay sober than it was for me to get sober, and that gives me a chance right there, y'all. So, Jay, thank you so much for being on Silver Lining.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Really enjoyed this chat with
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
And if nobody told you guys today that they love you, Silver Lining loves you. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.